All right, welcome back. Harrison Talks Pod, episode 18. Going to try to go without headphones today. It's just something that I'm so used to being on Zoom calls and online classrooms every day for however many years now. So just what I'm used to, and yeah, this is good too. And if you're watching on video, it might look a bit different as well because I'm going to try out some different scenes today. We'll see how that goes. Uh, and I'm trying to keep the intro short so we keep everything about the content. But I hope you're doing well. Subscribe and let me know if you watched the All-Star weekend, watched the All-Star game, watched Saturday night, watched the Rising Stars, any of that. That's the first segment for today. And I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about All-Star weekend. Let me share my own thoughts about the weekend itself because, yeah, this is a brand new podcast for me still. I grew up always watching All-Star Weekend, and later on in life, it became more of a something that I watched if I was around and there was nothing else going on. And that's usually how it is. Working at home and in February, this time of year, I could have watched the America Canada hockey game, and honestly, I probably should have. For me, the All-Star game was on a Monday morning, so I was out the door the second that it was over. Lots of frustrations with everything. We're gonna break it down and talk about if there's any positives or any constructive things that we can take away from this whole thing. Because yes, it was bad, and it feels like it's progressively getting worse. And in some ways they're trying the same things over and over again and things just are not working. So the weekend in San Francisco seemed nice. First positive that I'll say is that Rising Stars is usually fun, and it was fun. It showed the most competitive basketball of the weekend, which isn't hard to do, but hey, at least it's something. And whenever we get to highlight those players that should get highlighted more, like Steph Castle, like G League players, hey, Pat Spencer was out there representing people that look like me, I think. That's always very good. And we'll talk a little bit more about what Draymond said with the Rising Stars when we get into the game. But the main issue that we have to address with this, of course, is just the stoppages in play, of course. On Sunday evening, we had three games, and the third game went to 40. I thought that was just too much. Yeah, 24. Make it 24. But three games to 40. That's 120 points overall. And, well, 120 points for the winning teams, I'll say. And of course, the games are going very, very fast. So we got, I'm going to estimate less than 20 minutes of basketball. And besides 3 minutes of fun Steph Curry basketball and some other highlights, I guess, some Wimby highlights, some good play overall as well. I'm not going to try to take anything away from any of the play because if there was any lackadaisical play that went on, it wasn't the fault of the players at all. For example, uh, Kyrie Irving making some nice plays, throwing it off the backboard and dunking it like Uncle Drew, playing some nice defense in the whole thing. I think Trey Young made him mad. So can't take away from that. Not going to put any blame on the players. This is going to be a very pro player episode as it usually is. But the constant interruptions. The pregame starts at was it 8 o'clock my time, and it ends close to 11, I think. So I'm thinking about the people over on the East Coast, especially people that have children that They're saying that want to stay up for it or they want to watch their favorite player in the second game, and there's all of these stoppages going on. It just creates a very bad product. Now, that's the main issue. And of course, it gets worse. Uh, in the final game, which again is a 40, I think when it was 20-11, they took a timeout. I'm not sure if it was a timeout or it was just a stoppage, and then they did the whole TNT tribute. So it was timeout, break, and I'm watching League Pass, so I don't see any commercials or anything. So I'm watching just the randomness going on in the stadium. Break, tribute, and like another break. And this is over 20 minutes and visible frustration. I mean, we saw it on social media with Jalen Brown saying, like, get out of here, like, let's go. But even just watching the presentation on TV, you could see uh, just visible frustration and people on their phones, people just not engaged, people not interested in things that weren't about basketball. Why do a TNT tribute in the middle of the final game, especially when there was momentum? And let's face it, when they came back, the players, I think, on both sides just said, let's get this over with. They've been here for, over 5-6 hours at that point, I'm sure. Stoppages, biggest problem of the whole thing. Kevin Hart gets a check. It's not his fault. Why the PA? So last year, they made a very interesting broadcast choice of interviewing Luca while he was playing. So it was like he was mic'd up, but he was just giving the interview while he's supposed to be playing a game. And I thought that was horrible. And it took away from the game, or what was supposed to be the game, so much. So that was quite odd. But having Kevin Hart and whoever else he was with on the broadcast shouting at the players and doing all of that, I'm not sure if I would have enjoyed it in 2015, and I don't think anyone enjoyed it, yeah, last night for the game. So it goes beyond Kevin Hart. The comment towards Shaq, um, him being a something director with the clothes he was wearing, saying that on national TV was interesting. Um, it was definitely fits in with everything else being irrelevant in the broadcast. Just too much commercialization. And again, stoppages, all of these things that go on. It was like the most prime example of the the problems with the product and the constructive criticism that I can give towards the product. We can talk more about constructive criticism surrounding the actual game and the pacing and the officiating and the rules. But when it comes down to it, I think the biggest problem is that it's just not the product that most people are looking for. And I was going to do solutions at the end, but I'll just throw it in now. As a 90-minute presentation, this would have been fine. And we know that because The Rising Stars was, I think, about 90 minutes or 2 hours, and it was three games. And of course, it's a different field. There's not nearly as many people at that game, but it worked. We see this in the regular season as well. Whether you're going through lots of commercials, watching it on TV, whether you're at the game or whether you're watching it on League Pass and you're seeing the same things over and over again. How long is a full timeout now? It has to be over 3 minutes, right? So just way too many things that take away from just what people want. And there seems to be more of a disconnect than ever. Mr. Beast on Sunday. Mr. Beast was actually, I think, a cool idea. I'm not Mr. Beast fan. I watch I watched the first episode of Beast Games and see a couple of his videos, but I thought that was a cool idea, but perhaps not do it on Sunday or do it for the game, not in between 2 games when we're trying to get other things started. But it was a fun idea. Jaren was his name, won $100,000. Damian Lillard seemed quite upset about losing that contest. It was very, very funny. So I'll take it. Rafael Sadiq was also a nice, I'll say surprise for me and just a nice addition. One thing that's remained consistent most years with modern All-Star games is the music, whether it was the 2016 DeMarcus Cousins got traded afterwards in New Orleans. Was it like in New Orleans when they had like Earth, Wind, Fire and Dr. John? They've had years when it's been like The Roots and John Hamilton, I think. Raphael Sadiq and his band going through the medleys during the player introductions was the best part of the production of Sunday evening. So I don't know what they do. One solution, and wow, I went all out of order, but my mind's going places. One solution is just to get rid of it. So making the games shorter didn't work, and it's a concern because I am on board for shortening the games, uh, the way Adam Silver has talked about it, doing 10-minute quarters, but I'm only on board if we first make the pacing and everything else in the presentation shorter as well. I don't understand why we would do a 2.5, 3 hour game and make it shorter and just add all the extra fluff that goes on with it. So it's a concern. At the same time, it's something that I don't mind. 40-minute games, I mentioned on here, if players wanted to. I don't know if it would ever happen, though, getting rid of halftime. Halftime's always been a thing, hasn't it? So, starting games on time, for sure. And that was also more evident than ever on All-Star games. It always is. Yeah, it always is like we have no idea when it starts. 8:40, I think it was. About then, I thought it was going to start like 8:20, but it just goes on and on. Much like this segment. So we're going to wrap it up soon. Mac McClung saw lots of positivity there. Deserves all the credit. 3-time winner, only one to ever do it. I think only missed one dunk, or did he miss any dunks on Saturday? He might have missed one. All 50s, all very cool, innovative, hard to do different things. Seem to get other uh, NBA players perhaps interested in it, but yeah, it's a year away. Who knows? Yeah, they'll mind. There's plenty of times before then, I'm sure. But I'm happy that a lot of the reception that at least I saw anecdotally was people saying the same thing that I'm saying, giving him credit, although of course he is a league player that is going into that competition. I don't know if other players are going to want to compete against him if he keeps going because, like that one jump over the car, uh, could have ended very badly. So there's a certain risk involved in all of it as well. 1 minute on LeBron James. Did not like some of the comments I saw about LeBron James, um, given the information or lack of information that we had. It felt to me like people sometimes look for excuses to on or to ways of negative. But in the end, I think we only know so much. We know it's an ankle thing, but we don't know how many people made that decision, why the decision was made. Not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron James did not want to play, given how we saw the night go. I mean, it it would have been his 21st All-Star game, and he's 40 years old. Lakers are going to be in the playoffs. That's very important. And they might have known that, hey, like you're gonna play 5 minutes, you're gonna sit for an hour, you're gonna play 5 more minutes, you're gonna sit for another hour if you win. And they might have said no, like the organization, LeBron himself, and if LeBron himself said it, I just it's hard for me to care. Sometimes I wonder why we choose to care about things that we say don't matter, like the All Star game. It matters a little bit depending on what you mean by matter, but we sometimes use it to I can't remember anything. I can remember LeBron playing in like the first or second quarters of the past few All-Star games. But I can't remember like one moment in my mind that sticks out for LeBron in the All-Star game. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I've watched his career so much, more than any other player, I think, in the last 20 years. He's played a lot. So I just thought it was fair. Also, the fact that it was announced the day of, I don't know. I would not be surprised if the league just asked him to come to San Francisco, do the player intro, make an appearance, have people that came to see you just see that you're there in the building. And for some people, that's just what some people want. More of the normies. So, closing thoughts. I don't know if it should come back. Yeah, I think they should go back to the old format because it's just why go back to something that why go back to something that does not work? I say try to keep the format and keep it shorter. And I don't know, like, do you need a whole weekend or do you need 1 day? Perhaps it's 1 day and then the All-Star break is still the same length of time and there's more incentive for players to participate. You know, the money is still great, but it's a lower percentage of what players are making overall. So I get it, but if they get more days, I don't know if that's a better incentive for them for it, but we'll see how it goes. Can't believe I did 20 minutes on this. Let's move on. Yeah, yeah. The All-Star break is dumb. I like it, but it's dumb. Last two parts I want to do today are talk about Rookie of the Year because I was inspired by seeing Steph Castle and uh, who else? Just other big names this weekend that we'll talk about. Let's get into it. Actually, we'll start with Steph Castle because at least was it before this week? But this week he is leading in Rookie of the Year odds and has been playing some great basketball for the Spurs as of recently. And if Spurs get back-to-back Rookie of the Years, has it happened before? I didn't check that before I started this show. So if you know that, leave me a comment. Over the last 10 games, Steph Castle has averaged 17.4 points per game, and that is a 6.9 increase for his season average of 10.5. His efficiency has increased past 10 games to 49.6%, and for the free throw line, 80.2%. Been showing big improvement as a scorer, whether he's starting or coming off the bench, has seen an increase in minutes. And yes, this is all on the Spurs where there's so much focus on other players. Not even just Victor Wembanyama, but having the veteran presence of Chris Paul, having De'Aaron Fox on your team now, and still having a increase of minutes. But we'll see how it is post All Star break as well. That's one of my questions for him. Big performances on February 7th against the Hornets. He scored 33 points, 10 for 15 shooting, 3 from 5 from 3, 10 for 11 from the free throw line. On January 23rd against the Pacers, had 9 points, 3 assists. Oh, excuse me for that. January 8th against the Lakers, 23 points on 10 from 16 from the field. I don't know why I included that second game. There was some efficiency reason. I don't know why. So he is leading right now. He had a very nice showing. Was MVP of Rising Stars. Got to represent Rising Stars in the All Star game, and had a very nice dunk in the dunk contest. Was just outshined. Yeah, he was outshined by Mac McClung. Zach Edey is next on the Rookie of the Year list. In the last 10 games, he is scoring 15.1 points per game, which is an increase from 10.9 for the season. Field goal percentage has jumped from 52% to 58%, showing a lot more efficiency down low. And in the last 10 games, he is averaging 9.4 rebounds per game, much higher than the season average of 6.4 rebounds per game. Increase in free throw as well, shooting now 70%. Uh, why he could win Rookie of the Year, I think, is both sides of the ball, and we'll see how much playing time he gets on the Grizzlies, who we assume will be healthy and in the playoffs and in a good spot in the playoffs. How much playing time he'll get as well compared to other players like Steph Castle and Jalen Wells that will be also in the race for Rookie of the Year as well. But if you are looking for someone who has had much better offense and is going to offer maybe the best defense of any rookie on the list, it might be Zach Edey. And we'll see what the future is. Really hope Zach Edey has a long future in the league. Still sitting around the paint a lot, but we'll see how it develops. And the last one, as I just said, is Jalen Wells. In the past 10 games, averaging 12.3 points per game, slightly up from his season average of 11.4. In the past 10 games, he's shooting 47.8% from the field and 39% from beyond the arc. His rebounding has improved slightly, and his overall defense has improved as well in the later half of the first half of the season, I'll say. A consistent improvement, scoring and efficiency, all reasons why he's a Rookie of the Year candidate, and has had some big performances which are going to stand out when people are deciding who to vote for Rookie of the Year. Recently had a 30-point game against Sacramento, playing for the Memphis Grizzlies, and yes, it's very unique that Zach Edey and him play on the same team. The amount of minutes he'll get down the stretch, especially since they will be in the playoff mix, will be interesting. So, want to say that he will end the season somewhere at the top of the rookie race, and he could win, but I think it will come down to competing for those minutes on a team that has quite a bit of depth and is going to be focused on the playoffs overall. All right. So those are the top three for Rookie of the Year. Let's do top three for MVP, and it's going to be a very historic MVP race. That's just what I've been feeling all season. Top of the list, top of the standings is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Some huge performances and just his best offensive year, and cannot believe that we're at this point so early into his career, I'm assuming. Over the past 10 games, has had some great scoring performances. 50 points against Phoenix, 45 against Indiana, shooting 50% from the field on many of these games. Shot 15 from 19 against Milwaukee and 62%, 18 from 29 against Phoenix. It's just been overall just extremely efficient this year. The free throws, I know everyone's talking about now, but it's a big part of this game. It was 18 for 21 against Golden State, 14 against Houston. As a scorer, He's contributed in lots of different ways. Isn't Doesn't shoot that many, uh, but is also contributing, as course, as a pass first point guard sometimes. For example, getting 9 assists against Dallas recently. Other big performances. Let's see. Did February 5th against Phoenix, 50 points, 5 assists, 2 steals. January 22nd against Utah, dropped 54 points, shooting 17 for 35 from the field. Who was out that game? It also includes 3 from 10 from three, 17 from 18 from the free throw line. Just all around dominance. And for many reasons, I think he's in the forefront. But let's talk about the positives. And the biggest positive is that his team is winning. They're the best, second best in the league. They're the best team in the West. And this team, in my opinion, is way ahead of schedule and has gone through injuries with some of their best players and has remained at the top. And it's looking like they could end the season healthy and go into the playoffs with more depth than any other team. So, uh, although it's a young team, it does have the makeup of a team that has a superstar and has shooters around him and has defense around him. And it's just very hard to double up on Shea when he can just kick it out so easily. So, elite scorer, elite passer, turning into a three-level scorer for sure. Uh, just overall, easily top five player in the league, easily top three player in the league. He is not only at the front of the MVP race, but he would be my pick overall right now. Let's get into that a little bit more, talking about Jokic. Nikola Jokic, what more can we say? Was it 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago that he hit that like 91-foot shot, just threw it in, and I reposted it on Twitter, going, sure, like that's a perfect example of what we've seen from Jokic this season. Can't believe that he's a three-time MVP and he is. I think he's having the best offensive year of his career. He's someone that if you're watching him, you're expecting him to get a triple double at some point. And quite often he's getting a triple double in the third quarter. When it comes to big performances, he's might have had more big performances than any other player, although perhaps not as consequential when you look at where the Nuggets are in the standings. But he had 46 points against Timberwolves recently, 56 points against the Wizards, including 16 rebounds, 8 assists. Against Sacramento in January, 35 points, 22 rebounds, 17 assists. I didn't look up overall efficiency numbers, but this has to be in the top five or perhaps the number one most efficient offensive years of anyone overall. I'm sure it's breaking just his own records. So all around game, scorer, playmaker, rebounder, MVP front runner, but the biggest reason why he won't win, and I know that this is not going to be a surprise to anyone who follows basketball, but of course it is voter fatigue. Voter fatigue. After two MVPs, there was voter fatigue when he got his third MVP, and there was even a season between that. Three MVPs is something that only 8 players have done so far, or nine, or eight. But if he gets four, then he'd be only one of 5 players that have done it. So the not only is it fatigue, but it's also just overall legacy, because it just means a lot to lots of people, I guess. Where you put him in that list. If he wins the fourth MVP, he has to be a top 10 player. And if he's a top 10 player, then who's not a top 10 player? Or it doesn't matter. You can let me know. Doesn't matter. Perhaps it doesn't. So that's it. I think with the Nuggets, the standings, and the fact that Jokic wins so much, it's going to be hard for him to win this year, and Shea should be in the forefront. Yeah, winning is important. Third on this list is Giannis. Also, everybody on this list has big recent performances for sure. Averaging more than 30 points per game in the last 10 games and shooting almost 60% from the field in the last 10 games. Has been big on rebounds, 19 rebounds against Brooklyn, 15 against Philly. Uh, free throw improvement, upwards of 75%. Yeah. Uh, yeah, great performances, great all around play, best defensive player on the list of top MVP race. Won't face the same kind of voter fatigue that Jokic will face. Biggest question I guess I would have for him is how many games he plays. Yeah, he's played 41 games overall. Does he get injured or does Milwaukee try to stretch out minutes and have him rest more if Milwaukee becomes a for sure top four, top six team? We'll see. We'll see how many finishes with, but for now, 41 games is the least amount of anyone that's in the top five of that MVP race. So uh, I guess, yeah, strap in. I guess I think we're gonna have lots of big performances, especially with how close the top of the East is, with how close the almost entire Western Conference is. Might see some really bad performances towards the end when teams start going out, but overall, with what I had seen from this weekend, seeing rising stars, seeing some good players, wanted to touch base on that. I hope you have a great rest of your week. We'll be back next week. Oh, we'll be back with some guests next week as well. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day.